because some of my previous comments may be perceived as anti-education and anything but that. That was the way for me and my 5 brothers and sisters to get out of poverty. We all got a college degree, and that was our way out, and I can see education as being the way out, and for many other people to get out of poverty and or just to reach their potential. So, but I'm having a reputation of basing my decisions based on data. And let's go back to the budget situation we faced earlier this year. Governor's proposal for our K-12 education was to implement the $170 kid per cut that everybody knew was already coming from, because we no longer had the federal dollars, and an additional $300 per kid cut. I didn't see that proposal was based on much data, and so I went to get maybe 10 or 12 case studies of school districts and to see just what the impact really was. I ended up getting 42 case studies that I then analyzed, and I shared with my caucus, and a number of us then said, gee whiz, that $300 per kid cut was too much, and ultimately we got it down to effectively about $100 per kid. So you got to put that in perspective. But when you talk about whether there's still opportunities or not, when I was school business manager at Adrian Public Schools, if we had privatized our custodians, we could have saved $800,000 per year, equivalent to $200 per kid. Interestingly enough, in that study, the cost study that I did this spring, on those, it confirmed that on average, for the 42 school districts that I gathered data from, they could have saved on average $200 per kid. So when we really are looking at what's best for the students, that's why I say there is still room for cuts within education. But now, BMI, body mass index, the government collecting data on child's obesity. We just held a hearing last week with us. I'm chairman of the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules, and we had the department come in and give their rationale for that. Obviously, there's a lot of opposition to the state collecting data on your obesity or the child's obesity, but bottom line, I came out of that the proposal is voluntary on different ways. It's an opt-in system by the physicians, an opt-out system by the parents. I believe that the information would be kept confidential, sufficiently confidential. But I walked away with the question, is it even worth doing? Is it cost effective? Because there's no real way to know whether to do any good at all. This has never been done before, and no way to know that it would work. The only hope is that the same success would happen with this as happened with school immunization data. That's currently in the Michigan Health Improvement Registry or something like that. MICR. Anyway, but I don't know that that's comparable, because most everybody realizes that if you get an immunization, there's less likelihood of not only you getting the disease, but you're not going to get giving a disease to someone else. I'm not sure that anybody has really realized that, if I'm fat and I go to school, I'm probably not going to make anybody else fat, or if I'm skinny, I'm not going to catch fat from somebody else. So I don't know that it's really going to be cost effective.
So you're a no vote today.
I'd be a no vote today. Yes.
Representative Rutledge.
You're going to let me say a word about the prison piece?
If you need to, go for it.
Because I think there's a relationship. I just like to tell a real live story, because sometimes, unless we walk in the shoes. About 2 months ago, there was this kid, 2 months away from graduating, got involved in a situation. I know this situation up close and personal because this kid went to my church, Sunday school, all raised, just really well. Got into the system, so at sentencing, no question about his guilt. I mean, that was not disputed, although his guilt was not. I mean, he was just on the fringes of what happened, but nonetheless on the fringes. So I sent a communication to the judge indicating this kid's character and all of that. And I did another thing. I went to the sentencing hearing. The judge specifically took note of the communication that I sent, and in a way of hammering back or sending a message to the legislature, he said these words. He said, "I am a judge, and I think I'm in a position to make reasonable decisions given the facts in front of me. But you legislators have done a simple thing called minimum sentencing guidelines passed by the legislature. Legislature wanted to show tough on crime. So in essence, while the judge could have wanted to fashion a different remedy for this situation, could not because of the sentencing guidelines. So, kid, reasonably good, hundreds of people standing behind him to surround him and help him work through situations could not happen. Now, my question is, how many times has that situation repeated itself where the judge could have fashioned something that would have been appropriate given all of the facts, but his or her hands were tied because of this thing called minimum sentencing guidelines?
Okay, let me get back. Mr. Richfield, let me come down on the BMI proposals from the governor. Are you signing off on that, creating that registry?
No. I wouldn't want mine out there.
But it's not going to be high on your agenda, to borrow a phrase.
No, it's not. I have said that before, haven't I?
Yes, you have, a couple of
He's
times.
said that about ours, too, a couple of times. Hey, you know, I know his intentions are good. He's trying to get to a root problem that we have in the state.
Well, then why don't
of
you
Michigan.
help him out?
Well, we will. And if you ask him about some of the proposals he put out from the state, et cetera, the process has worked well in Lansing this year. He will tell you that he's put out ideas and the legislature has approved them and he's signed them. That's why you have elected officials, why you have both sides of the Capitol. I think it's been working pretty well this year.
Senator, are you prepared to help the governor out since he can't get Republicans to do it?
Well, I think the problem for me is, we have so many places in state government now where we've cut our own staff and our own funding, that we have lots of programs that we're saying that we're running that we're not running well. And so, to me, we could gather this information and then do what with it? Because if we gather this information, we have lots of areas of the state where we have food deserts. Our kids in urban areas, it's easier to get food at a Quickie Mart than it is to have a grocery store. There's no access to local produce and fruits and vegetables. So we gather this information and do what with it? It's one more report that comes to who? I guess I have a lot of concerns about
So
it.
you're a no vote.
I'm a no vote.
Representative.
Well, I first had to get over the point of the governor feeling that I was fat. That was the first step.
I just heard you were too short for your height.
That's
I
probably
said
what it is.
too short for your weight, that is.
But, I had a chance to talk with him about that. And, I think with everything else that's going on, I agree with the senators that we have a lot to focus on. I think the spirit is good and the intent's right. It's just the follow-through and how we're going to manage this process. And I know he's keyed in on dashboards for absolutely everything, but this one is probably going to meet with more resistance than some of the others.
So you're a no vote.
I would be a no vote at this time, at least until I get my 10 pounds off.
Representative, good luck.
Like many of the things that the governor has proposed, I agree his heart is completely in the right place. His goals are good, but the tactics aren't very well connected with the goals. It's sort of like most.
What's wrong with the tactic of gathering data?
Well, I think Senator Warren hit the nail on the head, which is what are we going to do with this data? There are programs already in place, and there are a lot of good ideas out there that I think would make a bigger difference in terms of addressing this issue. Senator Warren mentioned a couple of them. I would talk about maybe a more aggressive farm-to-school program. If we're interested in economic development, our agricultural sector is one of the few that's doing well in Michigan. We could really seize on that. Michigan has a tremendous crop diversity. We've got a great farming economy here in Michigan, and the state should be behind that, supporting that, and making sure that our schools, our prisons, and our universities are buying Michigan products when we're feeding our young people. So we shouldn't be seeing any Washington apples in Michigan schools. We should be seeing Michigan apples, and we should be seeing more apples than pop machines. And
All right, so
and I-
you're a no.
I'm a no.
All right, and you're also a no. But explain.
Sure. I think the governor is completely correct in giving voice to this issue and heightening the conversation. I just disagree in terms of the data collection piece of it.
All right, let's poll the delegates. How many people, by your applause, would support creating a registry voluntary to keep track of our fat kids? Applaud. Whoa. Okay, how many people would oppose that? Applaud. And those of you that did neither, please see me out in the lobby afterwards for being evasive, all right? Okay? Questions from the audience? Yes. Please, sir. Here you go.
Well, I was just going to make a comment on that. The reason why I didn't vote either way is I think if we spent our time and effort catalyzing and developing the health information exchanges in the state, we can make a much greater impact on health, child obesity, adult obesity, all the chronic diseases, which cost 70–80% of all our healthcare dollars. I mean, we're spending only millions on the health information exchange of Michigan money.
These guys don't want to do it?
Well, the state, sub-state HIE, is there, but it's funded by the federal government.
Okay, other questions? All right, personal property tax. What are you guys going to do about that? Senator Richardville, let's start with you. Just walk me through a couple of questions. One, we need to get rid of the PT.
By getting rid of, I don't mean eliminate this year, but we do need to look at whether or not it's relevant anymore.
And you would like to phase it out over a period of 3 to 5 years, is that fair?
I think it's fair to say that we're looking at that, but you need to know that the revenues come from 3 different sources, and they're different. One of them would be the utilities, one of them is commercial, and one's industrial, about a third of each. And you also have to take a look at where the money goes. About 80% goes to local government, about 20% goes to schools. So if you make cuts on one end, you got to think about what's going to happen on the other.
And the locals would like to get back all of the money that they lose on the PPT, and you have told them that that is not going to happen, correct?
Yeah.
How much do they get back?
Well, I don't know that yet. I mean, it's going to
40%? 50%?
It'd be somewhere between 0 and 100, but I'm not sure the exact number yet. In there.
That would be Richardville 2, Scubic 0, okay? The score goes up another notch.
Could I say something, though, quickly about
please.
this? Yeah, I'll try to be quick and succinct. There was a lot of misinformation about the business tax changes that we made back in the spring, where big corporations are making money and we're robbing money from schools in order to give them money. That's not true. What actually happened is the limited liability corporations, the smaller corporations, those S-corps with 100 employees or less, which provide 80% of the jobs in Michigan, are the ones that got the elimination of the Michigan business tax. The big ones stood aside and said that is going to help fuel the economy, but we would like to look at personal property taxes because we invest in machinery, transportation, buildings, and we are actually paying more taxes because of what did in the spring, and we would like to take a look at personal property tax because you're penalizing us when we invest in our company, and that's where jobs come from. So this is phase 2 of a 2-phase business tax restructure.
Senator Warren, your position on the PPT?
Well, unlike a lot of the tax changes that we've made in the last few years, this is one of the few that it doesn't impact our budget very much. So it's not us cutting some part of state government revenue and then trying to figure out how to balance the budget. As Senator Richardville said, this is nearly 100% of the dollars that are raised to personal property tax go to our local governments, to our schools, and our libraries. And these are 3 entities that have really taken pretty tough hits in the last few years in our budgets. What's especially difficult about the personal property taxes, it is depending on how big it is in your community, whether you have manufacturing facilities, you have something like Pfizer that had a lot of property. You heard the mayor of Ann Arbor say when the night that Pfizer took the equipment out of their building, their tax liability, even though the bricks and mortar were still there, fell by $8 million, was it, overnight? So in some communities, this is 60 or 70% of their budget for their local government In some communities, it's 10% or 1%.
So the Republicans are barking up the wrong tree.
I'm very nervous about moving forward with this without some kind of guaranteed replacement, and hearing from local governments who've watched us not fulfill the promise of revenue sharing, that they don't trust us, that we'll find a replacement. I understand where they're coming from.